propose the question that the House do now adjourn. Give the call to the honourable member for Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Veterans' education and veterans' transition has always been something that I've taken a great interest in. I want to acknowledge the member for Menzies and the member for New England and all those in this place that have served this country in uniform. And while we recently amended eligibility to existing supports through the Defence Veterans and Families Acute Support Package, I believe that this parliament should take the opportunity to go further. I've long argued for the equivalent of an Australian GI Bill. The GI Bill was introduced by the United States government after World War II to provide free education, tertiary education services to GIs, veterans of World War II. We have talked a lot in this place. We've heard the ministerial speech today during the week by the Veterans Affairs Minister and the speech in reply by the opposition, talking about the dreadful figures involved in suicide from veterans. We all know that when men and women are serving in the military, the suicide rate is about half that of the civilian population. But when men and women leave the military, that suicide rate grows exponentially to a rate that is actually higher than what the civilian rate is. And we know that the younger a person, the younger they are when they leave the military, the greater the risk. Now, I don't for a second want to overblow this. I don't believe that the stats reveal that every person who joins the military comes out broken and busted. I'm looking at two fine men who are not broken and busted, and that is the vast majority of men and women who serve in the military. So we should not, we must not allow ourselves to think that way, because if we do, it actually serves as almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But there are some men and women who struggle, and it is our obligation as governments, as parliaments, to appropriately care for them. Now, 1 minute you're driving, sailing, flying multi-million-dollar, sometimes multi-billion-dollar equipment. And if young men and women transition, they leave the military, particularly for those whose transition is involuntary, we know that they struggle the most. So I would like to see this parliament give great consideration to implementing an Australian equivalent of a GI Bill. When men and women are serving in the military, they have a sense of purpose, they have a sense of mission, they have a sense of tribe. And some, when they leave, particularly if it's involuntary, they lose that sense of mission, they lose that sense of purpose. Enabling young men and women, in particular, to convert that sense of mission, that sense of purpose, to a university degree, or perhaps it's a carpentry apprenticeship or some other form of education, gives them the opportunity to help transition them into civilian life and gives them something to focus on. And I believe if you look at the success of the GI Bill in the United States and the captains of industry that have resulted out of the GI Bill, you look at the amount of money that we spend as governments at a federal level, $11.5 billion on the Department of Veterans Affairs. If we can save one life out of providing this sort of education program, it is worth the money. Now, over the next few months, I'll be working up and I'll be coming back and I'll be talking about what this is going to cost, how it's going to look like, and I'm working with the Australian Catholic University in that regard, who have got a terrific entry program for veterans, as does the University of the Sunshine Coast, as does Griffith. So these unis are walking the talk. They're providing services to veterans. They're looking at recognition programs for those who don't have ATAR scores, and good on them, but it's time for this government, this parliament, to back our veterans through the tertiary education.
The question